Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to see you again. Glad you're back joining me for Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute. I'm sharing with you the definition of the day of the Lord as established by the Old Covenant prophets. The New Testament writers tell us repeatedly that they were looking for the fulfillment of the Old Testament predictions of the day of the Lord. They use the language of the Old Testament to predict the coming of Christ at the end of the age. They never change or alter. They never tell the nature of that language. They never tell us they're redefining the language of the coming of the Lord. Now that's in stark contrast to where they do change the meaning and the application of some of the Old Testament language. For instance, physical circumcision becomes spiritual circumcision in the New Testament. So we're examining the nature, we're examining the definition of the day of the Lord. Now we're going to have to spend a little bit of time in a few different segments on what I'm going to share with you now in order to set the proper context. And the context will be Isaiah 29 through chapter 37. That's your assignment. Read those chapters, okay? By the way, let me remind you that I'm making a special offer on my book, Like Father, Like Son, on Clouds of Glory. It's been called one of the most definitive descriptions and defenses of the nature and definition of the day of the Lord that's been produced. If you order this book, go to my website, www.eschatology.org or BibleProphecy.com, and order the book. Mention that you saw the offer on YouTube. I will refund the shipping. That'll save you almost $5. So, order a copy of Like Father, Like Son on Clouds of Glory. And it contains, I'm telling you, a wealth of material on what we are discussing right here. Okay. The historical context of Isaiah 29 is the siege of Jerusalem by the armies of Sennacherib, some say Sennacherib, of Sennacherib, the king of Assyria. Sennacherib's general, with the title of Rabshakeh, has surrounded Jerusalem. God intended, and God did, punish Jerusalem for her sins, and yet the time for her total destruction had not yet come. But here's what he says in Isaiah 29, verse 1 and following. Woe to Ariel, the city where David dwelt. Add year to year, let feasts come around, yet I will distress Ariel. There shall be heaviness and sorrow. It shall be to me as Ariel, now notice this language. I will encamp against you all around. I will lay siege against you with a mound. I will raise siege works against you. You shall be brought down. Now watch this. You shall speak out of the ground. Your speech shall be low, out of the dust. Your voice shall be like the mediums, out of the ground. And your speech shall whisper, out of the dust. Now a couple of things real quick. God said, I'm going to punish Ariel, the city of God here. Notice the graphic first-person language. I will besiege you. I will bring you down. I will camp against you. Well, does that mean that God himself was literally, visibly, bodily going to come out of heaven and lay a siege? No. It goes back to Isaiah chapter 10, 15 and following, or 5 and following, in which God said he was going to use Assyria as the rod of his anger and the staff in his hand. God, in his sovereignty, was going to use the Assyrians to judge Jerusalem. Now, Assyria didn't think it was Yahweh doing it. They didn't realize, and they would never acknowledge, that they were Yahweh's instrument. But God says, it's me. I'm doing this. Do you see how God uses this metaphoric language? Even though he uses the first person, I will lay siege to you. I will encamp around you. I will do this. I will do that. You can't take it in a woodenly literal manner to say, well, that means that God had to come out of heaven. Now it's going to say that he came. Okay, we'll see that later. But here at the very introduction of this particular section and segment today, we need to see how God uses this first person language to say what he was going to do, when in fact what he was going to do was, in his sovereign power and authority, he was going to use the Assyrians to accomplish his purpose. Now what that means is, when he brought the Assyrians there, since he said it was him going to be doing it, the coming of the Assyrians is the coming of the Lord. Well, that's just a little snippet of what we're going to see in Isaiah 29 through 37. Hey, thanks for joining me for this morning's Morning Musings. We'll see you on the flip side.